You can proceed.
Good evening, I'm Ron Hodge with Naparol Consulting. We are civil site engineers for Family Health and Project. Rich Wagner with Whole Architects, they're the architects for the project, so building questions I will direct to Rich. We were here September, October for the subdivision. Oops. Spin this a little bit easier for some of you all can see. So this project is located up to the west of the administration building. So the current administration building, so it's about a 12,500 plus or minus square foot, single story office building. Primarily, or the only access will be from Technology Drive, where we have a shared easement with the Farm Credit Agency. So we'll come up through that driveway in through the medical storage property and then continue on to the medical building. Parking lot for about 60 cars, and one of the comments we got back from county planning, primarily the fire department, was they wanted a spot for emergency vehicle turnaround. So we did add, you'll see it's a little bit different here than what your site plan package shows, because we did add the turnaround that was requested by the fire department. That'll also be used by public transportation buses to turn around into. It'll be a K turn, but it's something like fire code allows and whatnot. So yeah. Feel free to interrupt with questions as we go along. So site wise, we do have a series of retaining walls and show. So two on the east side, two on the west side. Basically, because we're dealing with like a 30 to 40 foot change in elevation from one side of the project to the other. And in order to do ADA parking requirements, a flat building site and whatnot, the easiest thing to do was to create a terrace with the retaining walls. The two down below are it's a 5 foot exposed height, each of these. And then the ones up above are about an 8 foot exposed height. And the way I word it like that is, like structural engineers talk about like a 10-foot wall because 2 foot of it is below grade that you can't see. So it's that exposed space that you see.
Which steps are seasonal or are they?
Yeah, so their plan is that this is just primarily for people who are working at the administration building and that need to zip up to the office, medical office building. They're gonna barricade them off during the winter time. So they don't have to worry about, like, there's discussions about heating the stairs, so they wouldn't have to, on a day like yesterday, shovel them, but, at the end of the day, they just decided they'll barricade them so that people can't use the staircase in the winter months.
It's just for inter-office or is it for patients too?
No, inner office, yeah, because, so the parking at the administration building is purely just for the administration building. So when they're first up and running, I'm sure there'll be some patients who will pull in here, but they'll be directed to go up and around. So yeah, the staircase is purely, and truth be told, I think there's only 2 or 3 of the people that have offices in the administration building that would be using the staircase to get up to the medical office building.
What's it like going to the filing place? Is there any movement or you're getting a vehicle to go between one place and another?
Well,
A dead storage site?
yeah, and they didn't express any need to have pedestrian walkway over to the medical storage building. I mean, we looked at like a 4-wheeler, but they didn't fly. So, and plus what we've ended up doing grading wise is that space has become a detention area. What the plan is to help us, stormwater coming up off the hill is we've got I'm sorry. We've got a swale on that top, above that top wall, so we'll intercept that water and pipe it down into this detention area so that we're not getting, waterfall cascading down the hillside. And then pump on back here.
Is it on the ground piping or?
This will be, yes, as it steps down the hill. But this will be an open detention basin. Now it'll be a grassed, basin, kind of like what you see at the Farm Credit, properties right here. That'll essentially at this point just become a dry. Not much water will ever flow through this basin now because we're pumping it off.
Where's that file storage building on that?
So that's, yeah, that's further north.
So I guess, where is that detention pond in relation to the road coming in?
It'll be, so if you're driving up to the, office building, it'll be on the left hand side.
Okay,
So that there's about 100 foot, maybe not 100 foot, like let's say 75 foot strip of land that basically between the road and the property line with Farm Credit that we're using now for stormwater management.
so if it overflows the Wood Farm Credit.
Well, the counts, I got enough storage in there for the 100-year storm. We do have a spillway though, that'll direct the water to that swale. There's a rock line swale on the administration property that takes the water down to 281, so.
I was just trying
I've tried to plan for all emergency contingencies as far as the release of storm water, so that it doesn't go towards Farm Credit.
Okay. Those retaining walls, what is the face of those? What does that look like?
So they're going to be the segmental block walls, and we're leaving some of that up to Family Health and the contractor to work together to, whether it's the split face block, like the Versalock, which is the Versalock units are a small, typical concrete block size, but it's a split face so that it's not flush. But then there's Ready Rock and Keystone, which they're bigger units, but they're stamped to look like smaller units.
Yeah.
So that they're actually like fractured stone. So they will be, this term, decorative. And there's a lot of choices out there as far as manufacturers and.
They're not a flat blank,
No,
easily targeted for tagging, right?
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, these days.
No, that's, a nice smooth flat wall is often a good target for somebody with a can of spray paint.
Right, and yeah, these will, to look at them, they'll be more, you'll think they're actual stone.
I think, it's like, Burn Dairy did that with with the ones on the back side toward,
Those residential properties.
the residential properties.
Yeah, it's typically like, where we've used retaining walls before.
Mixing.
We've never, my 20 some odd years of experience, I've never done a retaining wall that's just flat block, other than for like a truck loading dock. That's where we've run into it, but for something like this, it's always been some type of modular system.
But more for clarification, it's thought, that's all.
Who signs off on these things structurally?
So, the structural engineers giving a basis of design in our spec, that goes to the contractor, and he has to have, in the spec, they have to have their own structural engineer design and stamp the drawings and submit them to the design team structural engineer for review. So we have done a geotech report to know, what the bearing of the soils are, so that the designs of the wall will meet all of the requirements.
They have drainage behind them?
Drainage behind, yeah, they'll have the drainage stone behind them with the perforated pipe to collect any, water, that's in the ground, and then we've got plenty of spots for those to discharge. But like I said, we're trying to cut off, overland flow, up at the top and pipe that, or not pipe, but convey that around the walls. So that surface runoff, won't be pouring over down into the, gap between the lower wall and the building. But then, when we built the storage building, we were hitting springs. So the drainage stone behind the walls will cut that off and convey that around too.
Proceed, please.
Okay, so stormwater management, so we talked about the detention basin briefly. So that's capturing the water running off the hill. And because we're all of a sudden channelizing all this runoff, we do have to slow it down so that we're not, adversely impacting downstream areas. So we do have some backup of water. It's not a pass through type thing. It'll build like during a 100-year storm, it does fill up to like a 5-foot depth. And then it's released in a controlled manner. For the water quality purposes, we do have bioretention basins between the, space between the administration building and the parking lot. Those will treat stormwater runoff or remove the pollutants, the sediments, things like that, and it'll also recharge the groundwater. If you've driven by the administration building, there's a bioretention filter between 281 and the administration building. So it's going to act as the same function as that system in place right now. We are connecting to all utilities, water, sewer, electric, and gas. So, water coming off, on the southerly side, and talking to the water superintendent and county health. What we're gonna provide is a double check valve out at the street for cross contamination. We're gonna run a 6-inch line. We do have a fire hydrant that we're gonna install right off of the turnaround, and then that'll continue on into the building, where that'll have, the building will have fully sprinkled fire suppression, RPZs for the backflow prevention, and that's all been discussed with county health and the water superintendent. Public sewer, we're connecting on the north end of the site, coming up through, and then we also have our electric and gas connections. Questions on any of that? Yeah, we do have landscaping, so bioretention filter will have plantings. There'll be some larger trees. We typically will use like a river birch because those grow really well in the filters. And then other smaller plantings, and then foundation plantings along the building. And then we're gonna put in some spruce, pines, and firs in the space up between the two walls up above the site to try to break that up and stabilize the soils. And then down on the lower side will be some low growth vegetation that doesn't need to be mowed, but will stabilize the site.
Can you describe the space behind the building and the retaining wall?
This here,
Behind the building,
this will
Yeah,
be
yeah.
grass right now. A lot of that just between the shade and the trying to direct runoff. That does get trapped in here. There's not a whole lot of opportunity to put some trees back in this spot. And plus it won't be too visible.
that's sloped in there, isn't
This here, not really. I mean, there is some, like a 4-on-1, 3-on-1 slope, but it is mowable. And then it's going basically high point right behind the building. It splits in both directions at about 1.5% slope to direct water away from.
it? Does that type of thing get lit?
This,
Yeah.
This
Night-
way?
Night, or is that just an
Um,
alley for people to hang out?
let's see, I don't know. Looking left. Forgot to put the photo map in there. We don't have any lights, unless, are there lights on the building? on the
There's
backside?
lights near the entrances, yes. So on the back, there's an entrance or there's two entrances, so we'll have lights. on that. Just so that if somebody needs to come in that door or out that door, we kind of lit halfway
Is
there.
there one door back there?
There's two, there's one on each side.
Yeah.
Actually,
Actually,
there's three, there's the mechanical room. Okay.
And, we do have light poles around the parking lot and then down the driveway to light that.
The public will be coming in the main entrance in the front. It's really just kind of more of a staff or, mechanical entrance in the back. You need to bring in parts for, maintaining the building.
What's the distance between those two retaining walls? I guess maybe you've mentioned it.
Into the old fashioned, sorry. I don't have,
Just, just,
I don't have a scale. I can get to the ballpark. About 20 feet. And that, a lot of that comes from looking at the different wall manufacturers, what they recommend. As distances between retaining walls so that they're independent of each other. If we put them any closer, then they become kind of codependent, and you gotta take in the surcharge of this wall as it relates to this wall, but if you space them out 20 feet, it's actually a function of the height. It's 2 times the wall height, so our wall height's being 8 feet, so it's 16 feet would be the minimum separation, but so. We went with 20.
What about as the trees grow? Do their roots expand and cause problems?
They shouldn't cause problems with the wall. We're not putting in like, red maple or willow, anything with that kind of a root system. I mean, they're conifers, so there'll be a shallower root system to help stabilize the soils. That's the site in a nutshell, without getting too deep into the weeds of it all. I don't know if you want to touch base on any part of the building, if you have questions on the building at all.
Well, we just get probably questions about your answers to county concerns and.
Sure.
One of them, who's gonna evaluate this, the traffic report?
Well, let me interject. What had happened is after we received the county recommendations, the village has retained Tim Buell, who's going to assist us on the traffic reports, most notably help us with the SWIP, review the SWIP. So he's been retained by the village. It's my understanding that some of the materials have already been sent down to him. So that kind of information, we'll get some input back from Tim. It's my understanding he's worked with this village before.
Yeah, Tim helped us with Burn Dairy and Dollar General.
Okay.
I don't know what before that, but,
So that should,
Joe's quick money.
okay,
He reviewed all of that.
did he? Yep,
It
Yep.
was reroute.
okay.
This is state, the state, yeah, someplace I think I read that the state has to sign off on the traffic, coming out of that driveway.
Yeah, so we're gonna update the traffic report. The previous traffic report was from when we were here for the approvals with the administration building, and there's, at that point, that report looked at kind of dividing the traffic of this master development between the driveway for the administration building and Technology Drive. DOT's not allowing any traffic from this upper development to go through the administration building. They want it all to go to Technology Drive. So we just need to update the traffic report for that. To show that, with everything going that way, what's the impact on that intersection up there?
Yeah, I didn't catch that on the drawing, so that there's no way those two roads connect?
one is a grade, it's a really difficult grade to go from the driveway to the administration building up to here. But when we did the approvals for the administration building, the DOT was very clear that any future development on the remaining portion of the site was not going to be allowed to access the driveway for the administration building to get out to 281.
So now if you want to drive from one to the other, or a patient makes a mistake, they have to drive out back out to 281 and back up.
Correct.
Also Don and Mike and everybody, I did speak with Tim today. So, cause I had sent him, like Fran said, I forwarded him the information. And, Tim said he'll be getting back with us this coming week, so.
Good.
Yep.
He's coming back.
He's actually, he's due to be back in New York on the 27th, so.
Tired working with Tim and a lot of time.
Yeah.
Surprised he's still.
He's still hammering it out, yeah. So. But that's the latest.
They're really. One thing that disturbs me is misdirected people that are gonna be going, how are you gonna get them to the right place?
So Family Health has to work with the DOT to get signage up in the right of way of the 281 right of way to direct them. So unfortunately, that's something, it's from a site plan perspective, it's a DOT issue.
Yeah.
And they are going to talk to the DOT about getting some direction. So, the blue signage. I don't know if there's any up there now at this point, but there's the blue signs with the arrows and whatnot. And so they'll have signage in the right of way of 281 that'll direct people between the administration building, here's the administration building driveway and then the medical office building.
The other part of that is patient education. So anybody coming to this building as a patient has to have a scheduled appointment. And so when they're scheduling an appointment, they can follow up with directions to the site, giving them, more detailed directions on how to get there, which entries to use. So that'll help as well.
Yeah, there's not a lot of distance between those two driveways, so. Between the driveway and Technology Place.
And I'll just tell him, pulling across from school, not across from Copeland Ave. That's basically.
It's just that.
Yeah.
It really does, it's too bad that. There weren't provisions made to have the administrative office also come off of Technology Place.
If I remember correctly, it was a hard push for Family Health to get that driveway in that they did, but that's why DOT kind of put the foot down and said that's a
Yeah, because, well,
proximity to 81.
yeah, and they're, but what I'm saying is that instead of going in off where they are now, if they could come off of Technology Place into the administration building, but you got Farm Credit East is,
And there's such a great difference. It would be difficult to get traffic up.
tough site.
It is very tough.
It's a real tough site.
Yeah, and the DOT has a 1 foot no access strip that goes across the administration building property. But it stops, I want to say 60 feet before the northerly boundary, specifically for the driveway. So. When the DOT did all the work on 281, that was part of as it was explained to me by the DOT, that was part of the Federal Highway Administration grant. Was that?
No, it's just, if I forget the number of offices in there, but it looks like that's gonna be a fairly busy operation.
There's 16 exam rooms.
So that's probably bigger than anything else in Cortland County.
Yeah.
Other than
Not
the
now.
hospital.
No, the one across from remember the old Pizza Hut over there on Tompkins? They just, QD Medical Center just built a much larger one over there.
more than 60 rooms?
16.
16, oh.
Sorry.
16.
Sorry.
Right, okay, all right. Like 60 out. Am I hearing you then, too? Nah. Okay, no, well, then, there may not be that heavier flow. We'll have to live with it.
Well, we'll let Tim address that as far as,
Yeah.
I know he spurted off some numbers and calculations to me of
Yeah.
potential traffic per square footage, there's formulas and stuff. but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's just
gonna,
that 5 years down the road, when there's an accident or any number of incidents, HFD is gonna be running calls, that's the impact on our HPD and HFD, they're gonna be running there. That's. But that's part, we also.
Well, part of the traffic impact study will be an accident analysis, looking at what's happened there in the past. Especially since it's an existing driveway. And, yes, we're increasing the traffic there, so that'll provide that correlation, but, the analysis does look at,
Yeah.
what's occurred within the corridor.
On the state police is also accessing through that. That's,
And the traffic, I guess when I think of the traffic, I just think that the school bus garage is right there. With all of that, like there's some times when you can be waiting to get off of Copeland, and those buses are coming in and out of there. Like, will that be part of the traffic?
Yeah, what they do is they'll look at the. What are we doing? So the traffic analysis from a few years ago looked at this intersection, the signalized intersection with the off ramp, access road to 81, the Copeland intersection, as well as, pardon me,
Center Street.
Center Street. I don't remember if it looked at this intersection with the driveway for the school, but
Yeah.
it does look at all of the, he
But
does
back
count.
there where Copeland is that's where all the school buses go, that's the bus garage.
Right,
So that's just what I'm envisioning. And when it comes to accidents in front of that oncology place, there's been quite a few. So that's my concern, I guess. But
so what the traffic study looks at is takes the existing traffic counts and then tries to figure out like a directional distribution, how many people are going north, how many people are going south, to kind of apply that to the traffic that will be coming and going from the medical building. And then what that analysis does is it looks at the level of service, how long somebody's waiting there at in a particular intersection, whether it be signalized or unsignalized, and what that wait time is. Anything below level of service of, I think it's D, is considered unacceptable. What that delay time is, I'm not sure. That's the traffic engineer's wheelhouse. But he will be looking at all these intersections to make sure that the wait time is sufficient, lines of sight. Can they see appropriately? Not necessarily because it's an existing condition from these existing, but he'll probably check the lines of sight just to let the put in the report, just somebody at this intersection, how far they can see left and right to make that decision to pull out. And what that reflects is what that gap is between traffic, can they safely turn out so that they won't get into a collision.
Do the traffic study people, do they recommend, or does the state decide, like no left turns out of, let's say, the technology place, no left turns? no northbound comes out of there or,
That would be up to the state to, determine that. And based on the previous report, we're not, the previous report had the master development for this portion of the site at like 36,000 square feet. So 3 times what we're putting here. And it showed that there were plenty of gaps in traffic at this intersection. Now, I mean, what we have to update is all the traffic now being routed to that driveway. So,
Including public transportation, that you
Correct.
just said would now be going in there,
right.
right? It doesn't now, correct? There's no.
No,
buses.
I don't think it goes up to
Portland
the
Transit, the local transit system doesn't,
No,
No, but we provide, they will be,
they will be going.
yeah.
It will be.
It won't be on a regular route though, it's like,
An on-call, a special,
I think so. Like that wouldn't be a regular route for public transportation. It would be if someone is getting, has an appointment there, it would be just like a regular individual driving a car. It's not like they're gonna be going there 3 or 4 times a day to pick up people and drop people off.
so,
Yeah, I
it,
do know it is a specific stop. It's not, if there's nobody on the bus or hasn't called for the bus, they'll pass on by where that route is.
that's why the state has all the traffic engineering.
Yes.
and
Like ours.
Carter, question for you. Are you familiar with any privately owned hydrants in the village?
No,
So my question then would be,
they're all village owned, other than the one up, remember where Dick Beebe used to live up there on the corner of Park and 281?
Yeah.
He had one put in the middle of his yard. But that's not connected to our system.
so this one, what they're proposing is to connect to our system.
Right.
So my question, and this comes from just recent past experience in Portlandville, is
Mhm.
who's responsible for testing?
That's us. If it's hooked to our water system, we test it.
You do test it, okay, all right.
And that was a question I was gonna ask. Am I missing the location of the fire hydrant on here?
Yeah, it's right here.
So it's over in the corner toward the turnaround?
Yes.
Okay, which I'm okay with. As long as we haven't got to lay 1,000 foot of 5-inch hose. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, that's why we proposed putting it there. Versus, the next nearest hydrant is
Yeah, there's one over on, yeah.
from here and, I think it's 600 feet is the maximum lane length, and I think we exceed that, so.
Yeah. Okay, very good, thank you.
So Dan, does the village have a policy in effect for charging private companies for testing water hydrants?
Off the top of my head, do I know that?
Right.
So I know I haven't charged them.
Because it's fresh in my mind from Portlandville. So they established fees and stuff.
Do they charge?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because there was, they had multiple,
sure.
a lot of them there, and so they weren't getting tested at all.
Yep.
And so they did make a resolution last year and basically gave that back to the boys in Portlandville,
Gotcha,
folks, not the boys.
good idea.
And so, yeah, so now they're set up for that. Something to consider.
We charge for other things like that, so.
Good enough. Okay. Think we got enough information on this portion of it? And you want to go on to the architectural review? Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, my name is Rich Wagner from Holt Architects. We're the architects responsible. We'll start with the floor plan here. So the main entrance is right here. We've got a drop off. So on rainy days like today, you can kind of drop a patient off. It's on the kind of the passenger side, so you can kind of pull up here, the passenger can get out and drive into the park and then walk in. So that's kind of the way we've set it for now. It's also for the Cortland County recommendation there, raising the canopy just a little bit higher than what we had it, so that the public transportation buses can also use that drop off as well.
Can you speak a little louder?
Oh, sure, will do.
I don't
So
have any hearing aids.
absolutely, no problem.
And the people on video won't be able to hear you either.
All right.
Speak up.
So the canopy will be high enough for the public transportation buses to drop off as well. All right, so the building has two entrances, two main entrances, the one on the right side and the one on the left side. They requested two entrances because they're trying to divide their patient population. We've got obstetrics on one side and we've got pediatrics and others on the other side, and trying to keep those two kind of populations, those patient populations separate. So there's two entrances, but they lead into the same area where they're registering, kind of two separate waiting areas, even though you could cross it, back and forth in between if you come in the wrong door. After you register, you kind of head back to this kind of U-shaped corridor. And around that, we have exam rooms. And then we have our nursing and doctor area where they've got their workstations here, some offices for the doctors, and then support rooms for cleaning soil materials. We've got our mechanical room, electrical room, things like that. So then along the front, we have a row of toilets for access and use by the patients and staff on either side. Any questions on the floor plan?
On left and right, are those halls?
They are. So it's essentially, this is one big U-shaped
Oh, that's the
walkway.
U-shape all the way around.
Yep. So the idea is, what they're, again, their providers typically have like a group of exam rooms. So one doctor may have these three exam rooms, another doctor has these three exam rooms. So they'll try to break up the obstetrics on one side of the building and pediatrics on the other side of the building. So they kind of keep those patients a little bit separate. As far as the elevations go, probably just turn right to the rendering. It's probably a little easier to see. So we're using the same materials that we have on the lower administrative building. Again, they're trying to develop, think of it as a campus, so the buildings are all part of one entity. So we're using brick that matches the brick on the administrative building. We've got fiber cement, kind of a board and batten kind of look, which they currently have as well. And then what we are introducing is a little bit of a standing seam roof as compared to an asphalt shingle roof, which they have now. Other than that, there's kind of one large volume in the middle where you have that kind of draws your attention toward that main entrance and kind of a nice high, reception and lobby area. And then there's kind of the wings that go on either side. And we've got a little bit high space here to bring some natural light into those exam rooms kind of on the end. So, any questions on the exterior material?
So the other end of it is a mirror of this.
It's almost symmetrical. There's some minor differences in the plan, but essentially the building is symmetrical.
What are we looking at the very left end? Looks like steps. There's a sidewalk and
There's a sidewalk that goes back. There's an entrance on the side of the building, and then there's a pathway to go over. Back there is the dumpster enclosure around there, kind of enclose that. And then if you go around the back, that's where that back door is. So if the staff wanted to go in that back area, or if they need to get to the mechanical room, there's a door around there as well.
Now the access to the dumpster is where, behind the building?
It's actually over on the side.
Oh, okay.
So if I turn back to a site plan, you can kind of see it over on the side.
Okay.
And it's set up there so that the garbage truck can kind of just pull in. They can open the doors down and then close the doors.
So the canopy, they drive up on this side of the posts, is that correct?
Correct. So it's
You
cantilever.
don't drive, that sidewalk is underneath the canopy, right?
Correct.
That's
Yes.
sidewalk, that's not driving up.
Yes. Let me turn back to the building side.
You can see better in color down on this.
So I can just sketch in the side, so the sidewalk edge, essentially the drop off, pretty much comes something like this right here. And then like that. And then there's a landscaped island that sits kind of out in this area right here on the site plan. So the cars would pull up here, and the canopy is this dashed line right there. So it's covers the majority of that lane.
So there's a little island to separate the parking lot from the
Exactly.
drive.
Yeah, it's, I think it's
5 feet wide.
yeah, it's not very wide. It'll allow a little bit of plantings there to kind of decorate it, as you mentioned.
Yes, planting in the island.
I believe so.
Yes,
It's important because a lot of these places have these herb raised areas and you can't see them sometimes, especially in the snow and you take a sharp turn and you're driving over them.
so to help with that, we're using mountable curb in that, for that island, so it's only 4 inch versus 6 inch. And it is canted so that if you do happen to, in a snowstorm, you get there when they haven't plowed yet, your tires would not roll right up onto that curb.
But the idea is that it would be plowed, so any patients coming would.
Yeah.
The area would be plowed, the sidewalks salted, medical centers are pretty good about keeping that up for patients, so they don't fall.
Rich, I have a question unrelated to the design.
Sure.
Do we know what the hours of operation are gonna be?
Yeah, generally, they're kind of like your typical doctor's office, it's roughly 8:30 till 5.
Okay.
They occasionally might have some extended hours in the evening, I think one night a week. And then they don't currently, but they may plan on opening on Saturday mornings, kind of an 8 to noon kind of thing.
Okay,
Just so that if they want to extend some hours into the weekends.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
This question's not related to you either, but I see you've talked to Pete, our water and sewer superintendent.
Yes,
You got any kind of an estimate on the amount of water they're gonna be using?
We know it, I don't know.
yeah.
If you have it on our plumbing
Did
engineer.
he already had to do all this?
Yes, yeah.
I'm fine with it then.
We've done the pressure analysis, supply analysis,
Gotcha.
well said.
How do we judge the lighting that when you go drive by and look at it, it's not all lit up like a Christmas tree? And then hand it on?
Yeah,
We don't have photometrics, but it should, is it in the packet?
because the electrical engineer put it together, I'm not sure it is, but so we are meeting the IES minimum standards. They're dark sky compliant. And they're the shoebox kind where the luminaire is actually tucked up in it. So it's not gonna be lit up like a car dealership at all. And it's meant to be in harmony with the administration building.
Around the building, there'll be lights, on the canopy to kind of light that area up, so it's easy to find on a late summer, late winter afternoon. And then there'll be lights around the building entrances on different sides, but the goal is not to make it shine. It's to just kind of make it easy to find and also safe for patients.
Yeah, lighting, there's the two issues, one being, are you shedding light for somebody to actually like on the ground experience that? And the other being, if you look up directly at the light, well, we're not shedding off the property lines. We're at 0 foot candles at our property line, so we're not shedding light onto adjoining properties. And then to mitigate as best we can the issue of if you were to look directly at the light, would you see it? That's where that shoebox comes in, where the luminaire is actually tucked up into the fixture versus hanging down low like the old metal halide fixtures. And we can't get rid of that totally. I mean, if you look directly at the light, you're gonna see it. Just like, you look up at the sky, you see the stars, but you're not gonna be able to read by those lights if you're at the property line.
Do these signs that say Family Health Network, are they lit up? Do they light up?
The current one on the administrative building, those are lit, and they're kind of self-lit signs. We haven't submitted a signage package yet, but that's the intent, is that it would match that same family health network logo with the green kind of leaf on the building. And then the one in the canopy would be a little different. They don't have a sign on their canopy. I think it's adjacent to it, but we would have something that identified the building, which is former family practice. I think is what they would like to call it.
So for lighting, we really don't have that information available.
I can, we have it, the photometric, prepared. I apologize, it's one of those, the electrical engineer did it, so it's not in my file. When I hit plot, it doesn't spit out.
It was submitted to the Cortland County.
Yeah, it did go to Cortland County Planning, I can send it
Yeah,
down.
it was in their packet. It apparently just didn't get put into your packet, so we can certainly send. But it has the photometrics for all the lights on the site.
Uh, Anybody else have anything else on this? Okay, you want to discuss the county planning and the responses? Or does anybody have any questions on it? I guess that's the, what I would get.
My biggest concerns right now are just the traffic study and that, you know, they say 60 car. I mean, if the center opens at 8:30, that means the staff arrives at 7:30, 8 o'clock. There's school, like, that's the part that I just feel like I personally need clarification on. That there's a lot going on there between 7:30 and 8:45. In my opinion. So, you know, you have staff arriving, then your first patients are arriving, you got school, buses going out, buses coming in. So I just need some,
Ron, how long do you anticipate it's gonna take to get the new traffic?
We should, I would think we would have it at a minimum, like a week and a half before the next one.
Because that would probably start to address a lot of your questions.
Yeah.
Especially when Tim might have some
Yep.
input
Yeah.
too. On that, it's certainly. We can, once we get that traffic study, probably can answer some of your questions or concerns, or might cause other questions, but at least we'll have some.
Right.
Then I would prefer Tim to review that as well as the story.
Sure, no, I agree, that's.
Yeah, well, of the six, I think there's 16 items on the county planning recommendation. I think there was 16, maybe
Yes.
15, they counted the steep traffic.
Yes.
A number of those Tim will have some input on.
Well, as one is the building signage shall be submitted to the village homeowner. We haven't seen that yet either, right?
That is more, I think this is for the site plan review. If they're gonna go for signage, that will come in another application.
Correct.
Is it coming before the planning board?
Yes,
Yes, that will be another application.
yeah. And the reason for that, Mike, is because the local zoning ordinance still, even though it's a R&D district over there, the signage part of that zoning kicks it back to residential. So automatically, that has to go to ZBA and planning for review until that law gets changed. So we'll get another couple sets of eyes on it.
Right. So. All right,
Is there a retaining wall right here at the front of the parking lot?
There's two.
Okay. Is there a drop off from the parking lot?
Yeah, and we do have a guide rail.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
my
there-
question. I
there's
never
curbing
made
and
that
guide
big
rail,
or-
yes, there is. It's a wood timber post.
I saw that somewhere, but I didn't know where it went. Right there. Wood guardrail.
I mean, I just think that all this the responses, I feel like they've covered everything except for this traffic study, I think is the big question. The answer to be determined.
yeah. Well, without the, traffic study, we can't give an approval, but we should do the environmental assessment.
Well, I think what needs to happen is, I think you have to discuss lead agency for seeker. It would appear to me it's an unlisted action. I think maybe they put that in the, recommendations, county planning recommendations, and unlisted action, right? I think that's correct. I think they put it in there as an unlisted action.
I don't, yeah, it's unlisted as far as
Yeah.
my understanding, seeker.
It's unlisted, so I think at this point, I could be wrong, I'm rusty on this, but I think, for purposes of lead agency, I think you're the only body that's making a determination on the site plan. And I think you would be the lead agency.
Okay,
Unless, Rod, you feel different.
No,
I think if you're the only body making the determination, I think you become lead agency.
okay.
So I think what you're gonna do, and Rod, again, I don't want to disagree and interject. I think what you want to do is ask the applicant if they're okay, holding any time to make a decision tonight so that you can get, one, some information that you need from Tim, you get the traffic study from Rod, and then also most importantly, Tim can look at the SWIP.
Right.
So that's got to be looked at. Rod, if you disagree, let me know.
no, well, I'm used to is, board designates itself lead agent, and then we come back the next month, because there's a 30-day mandatory waiting period by law,
Mhm.
right? So, we come back in a month, go through seeker, and hopefully we've satisfied all of your concerns, and we can get site plan approval at that point.
So I think tonight, if you want to resolve to make your board lead agency for purposes of site plan review application brought forth by Family Health Network.
Okay.
Item number one.
All right. Will someone make a motion to declare our board lead agency for site plan review?
A motion.
Second.
Paula, motion by Paula, second by Mike, Pollock. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, carried.
Then it would appear that your next meeting, I think I'm right, is February 28th.
Yes.
Okay, so that is beyond 30 days, Rod, so we're okay with that. And then hopefully we can get some input from Tim.
Yep.
And any items that Rod, or anyone on Family Health side feels that they still have to get us, that they can get that to us.